Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most magical time of year for marketers and brands. After 364 days of actively trying to avoid them, it's the rare and brief 3 or so hour moment when people are actually wanting to see the commercials. It is every marketer's Xanadu. Yep, it's the Super Bowl. And this is Brand New World's Big Game Special limited edition episode that we're calling Just Here for the Ads. All right, once again, I'm joined by Fast Company reporter and Brand New World's resident Gen Z brand wizard, Grace Snelling. Grace!
Hi, Jeff. I'm so happy to be here. A little bit nervous because, as I've told you, I view you as the Super Bowl ad #1 expert and historian. And so I'm more so just bringing vibes.
Well, I'm very glad to have you on this episode, obviously, for not only your own personal perspective, but your perspective to just encapsulate your whole generation. How about that?
Easy peasy.
How we're going to run this episode, because it is limited edition special. We've recorded and posting this before the game, and we're going to start with a look at the brand power rankings heading into the game, which means we're thinking about who had the best teasers or what ads that have already dropped will be the most talked about and the most popular. But after that, I wanted to get a behind the scenes look at Super Bowl season from some folks who are like up to their eyeballs in it. So I called up Mark Gross and Chad Broude, who are co-founders and co-chief creative officers of the Chicago-based independent ad agency Highdive. They have hundreds of Super Bowl ads between them, including this year's spots for Jeep and Lay's. And so we talked about the role the big game plays in advertising right now, how that's evolved and more. And then to end the episode, Grace will be back and we'll bring in another esteemed Fast Company colleague, editor David Salazar, to do a draft of the all-time best ever Super Bowl ads, in our opinion. So that's the lineup. Let's get into it. Grace, I wanted to start, speaking of me being the old historian with the wise old beard, I wanted to start with like a 10-second Super Bowl ad history lesson. And it goes like this. Okay, you can time me. In 2011, Volkswagen decided to drop its full ad called The Force online the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. This was brand marketer blasphemy at the time, but it worked. Millions of views before, millions of views during, millions of views after. It didn't hurt that the ad was amazing, but it started the whole trend of brands dropping their ads before the actual game to build momentum. And then that extended into teasers, and the teaser run has just extended the Super Bowl season farther back. I think the first one I saw was January 13th. So Super Bowl commercials are no longer Super Bowl commercials. They are Super Bowl campaigns for weeks before and after the game. Why? Okay, that's like 10 seconds. That's over. So why? So the last time the Seahawks and Patriots met in the Super Bowl, which I think was maybe 2015, prices for 30 seconds on NBC were about $4.4 million. Now, this year, according to Ad Age, it's about $8 million plus a required extra $8 million buy-in on other sports in the Winter Olympics. So it's basically $16 million for 30 seconds. Yeah. So the whole thing about this Super Bowl campaign situation is there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of money. So I guess that just means our power rankings going into the game are just that much more important. But Grace, I wanted to really start with, before we get into power rankings, what's your relationship with Super Bowl advertising? Is it something you paid attention to as a civilian not reporting on this stuff? Is it something you get excited about? And how do you sort of measure in your own head? What's your scale of good to bad and measuring success?
Well, first of all, I am not watching for the game whatsoever. not a football fan, couldn't have told you what the teams were that were playing this year
All
before
right.
you just said it. And even now, I'm not sure I would remember it. But yes, growing up, I did watch with my family mainly just to see the ads. Honestly, halftime show was exciting for me, but I remember as a kid being more excited about the ads. In my
Yeah.
mind, this might be just the rose-colored glasses of childhood, but I felt like there was a really sweet spot in like the early 2010s when I would get really excited for the ads. And since then, it's
Okay.
not been as much of a moment for me, but I don't know if that's just because I grew up and wasn't as thrilled about it, but yeah, I would say that the main attraction of the
has
Super Bowl
that
is the ads for me.
perspective, and I definitely think that might have something to do with the not just the time and the ads that were coming out back in the 2010s, but also the time of your life and where you growing up. But like, what
Hmm.
okay, since coming to Fast Company, or since looking at brand work more critically, and reporting on it, how are you
Hmm.
thinking about them now?
Well, I
Okay.
definitely think I bring a more analytical eye to it, like thinking about why certain brands are making certain moves and how well they're communicating the message and
Yeah.
actually getting their brand values across in the ads. I also think that, like I said, got a little bit. I wasn't as excited about the ads in past years, but honestly, doing the research for this episode, I was like, wait, there is actually great brand work out there. And I thought that there were some great ads this year. So I think maybe I just wasn't looking close enough to see those gems. But also I would say that I'm a little bit
Yeah.
more
When
critical
you know
too.
how many
Like there are
people have been
some where
in
I'm
the
like,
room, how much
whoa,
money's being spent, you're like, and
terrible.
this is what you came up with for
Yeah,
this moment? Unbelievable.
right.
Okay. Okay. So the
Hmm.
power rankings,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, how I sort of, it's both sort of, I guess, a preview into what I think my some of my top. So we're gonna sorry. So our power rankings are going to be our top three, the brands we think it can be any mix of just the best work we've seen so far, or momentum going into the game, whether that's through a particularly uh, sticky teaser or expectation. You know, there are brands in the Super Bowl that are in the Super Bowl every year that people just will stop to see their ad, whether it's good or bad or whatever. That they're going to pay attention to it. So that could be a factor as well, at least for me. When you're thinking of your top three in terms of the power rankings and what that means, what was your sort of your analytical criteria there?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this beforehand. I did my best to pick ads that I thought
Okay.
would resonate on a mass market level, but I think I also went for more of a vibes-based approach where if I didn't personally like it, if I didn't
Okay.
laugh at it, I cut it from my list basically. Except with the exception of one ish. We'll talk about it. But I tried to balance those two, but yeah, I will say that my personal
Okay.
opinions
Okay.
came to the fore a bit in my list. I did also look at the reception so far in terms of how those initial spots
Yeah.
or teasers are performing like on YouTube or on socials. So I think that's one metric that I was looking at to see like,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
immediately reacting to it?
That's so hard to, because I mean, every brand's going to say, here's, we scored like 100 million impressions, and it's kind of like, okay, well, if everybody's scoring that many, I mean, there's a lot of people watching, there's a lot of people,
Hmm.
but it'll be interesting to see just like the conversations around the various pieces of work. I think, and actually, I think at least as a pregame, none of my picks actually tap into this, but I think we're going to see this year a lot of calls for participation from brands. There's going to be great ads that are just great ads that'll make you laugh and entertain you for that 30 or
Hmm.
60 seconds. But I do think, put my prediction hat on, there's going to be some very cool, like, whether it's contests or that it's not only getting your attention with the work, but getting people to participate, which, obviously helps them pay attention more closely and remember, I mean, crucially, remember who the ad was actually for, which is always a challenge. Okay. So
Hmm.
the way this is going to work, we both have a top 3. We're going to start with 3 and work our way up to number 1. And we're going to watch it here together, each of our picks. And I think we should start with your number 3. Why don't you tell us what it is? We'll watch it and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, great. My number 3 is a bit of a dark horse, an unexpected player.
Oh.
It's from Kellogg's Raisin Bran. And the title of the ad is Will Shat, which gives you a bit of insight into what you'll be encountering in the ad. It stars William Shatner, the actor who you might remember from
Iconic Canadian also.
Star Trek, I would say, is his most famous work. Jeff, please.
Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, fact check me if I say anything wrong about what he's done. And yeah, it's essentially just a play on words, and it made me laugh, and I think I could see it resonating for a lot of
I
viewers.
think we should watch it.
Will Shat here, bringing fiber to the masses with Kellogg's Raisin Bran. Duty calls.
Will Shat?
Every darn day.
Whoa.
Will Shat in the house. It's fiber time. Is that dog a Shih Tzu? Perfect.
Will Shat on the car!
You're too old for this shit. Kellogg's Raisin Bran. High fiber, happy gut.
Yeah, now is it highbrow entertainment?
look.
Jeff, no.
2 things I really appreciate about this.
But-
1, why not? You know what? People laugh at poop jokes. It's like, in fact, honestly, Will Shat on a car, and then he does the Buffalo Bills Mafia table crash jump. Amazing. I like it. My number 3 is from Jeep. And what makes this unexpected is Jeep. Okay, so first of all, it's created by Chad and Mark and their agency, Highdive, who we're going to talk to later in the podcast, which I did not know because I just got this spot like days after we spoke, and they weren't allowed to talk about it explicitly on the podcast. But so they did a very famous. Some people put it in the pantheon of actual all-time Super Bowl ads. I can't remember the year, but it's Bill Murray, Groundhog Day, maybe 2018, and it's awesome. It was a great Super Bowl spot, and that kind of the agency was around before them, but it really, made their mark with that work. And this spot is, before we watch it, it's hilarious and unexpected, and there's not a single celebrity in it, which I also loved because it got breath of fresh air in that way, and I think it will definitely catch people off guard. It's called Billy Bass Goes to the River.
Take me to the river. Drop me in the
Hey, Dad.
Yeah, but
Can we please take him?
to the river.
you want to take him to the...
Put me in the water.
Hey, buddy, Billy might not be the best swimmer.
Sure he will. He's a fish.
Yeah.
Hey, look, an eagle. That's good luck. Over here. Is he waving?
Stop it! Stop it! Take me out of the river! Help me!
Help him, Dad.
Play dead!
Great idea, Dad! I'm about to be actually dead!
Don't look, son. Okay, just don't...
My wires! I can see my wires! Ow!
It's nobody's fault.
It is so! It's your fault! It's your kid's fault, and it's
No.
your fault! Oh, no, 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 no! I'm alive! I'm alive! No! Help! Ah!
Stay safe with 140 safety features in the all-new Jeep Cherokee Hybrid. But outside, you're on your own.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I thought, okay, so first of all, like I have kids, and this just sums up the some of the many conversations you have with your kids. You're like, oh yeah, okay. You don't want to let's not destroy the magic of childhood. We're just gonna, of course, let's, you can do that. One time when we were vacationing in England and for some reason we were going to this nice restaurant and my son was 3 and it was just like, he wanted to wear the Superman outfit. He just had a full Superman costume for some reason he had packed, and yeah, you just go with it. Who cares? And this reminds me of some of those conversations.
Well, first of all, when you sent this to me and I first watched it, I was already on board with the concept before it took
It's like a
the
sweet
turn. I
dad,
thought,
son, dad thing.
The singing fish, cute idea. Yeah, that was sweet. It was well executed. And then the little wave, I was like, oh, if that's the end, that's funny. And then with the twist, that brought it to a whole other level. And I was not expecting it to go for as long as it did. It's
I love
surprisingly
it. I
violent.
think
The wires being exposed.
I think that's going to be a hit. I think that Jeep, it's just a car ad in the Super Bowl, making people laugh. Come on. That's that'll do well. Okay. Number 2, no pun intended, Grace. What's your number 2?
Yeah, guys, as I was curating this list, I realized right before this that I made the poop list for the Super Bowl, and that wasn't on purpose, but I have to stand by it now. My second ad is from, I believe it's Novartis Health Company, and the title of the ad is Relax Your Tight End.
Have you ever in your life seen tight ends this relaxed?
I am so relaxed.
They're carefree, calm, serene. You know what these tight ends are so relaxed about? Prostate cancer screenings. They've learned there's a simple finger-free blood test. Roughly 1 in 8 men would be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I was one of them. I'm here today because I caught it early. Gronk, what'd I teach you?
Relax your tight end. Prostate cancer screening starts with a simple blood test.
Find out if a PSA blood test is right for you at Relax. It's a bloodtest.com. Let's do this.
I think people are not going to believe that they're actually, one of their favorite ads is going to be for prostate screening awareness, prostate cancer screening awareness. That's, there's going to be brands that are like, how do we compete with this?
Yeah, and I feel like I have already come across the ad organically on socials.
I mean, the memification,
a few 100,000
of the
views.
relaxing butts
I don't know,
alone
the people
is
who are
probably
in it,
out there already.
Yeah, and even for the people unlike me who are in it for the football, I think this hits that audience too, because you may actually recognize
you don't need to know who they are or what their jerseys stand for to think it's funny.
Nope.
My number 2 is from Rocket Mortgage and Redfin. So Rocket Mortgage being the lender and Redfin being the real estate company. They're under the same parent company now. They put out a very intriguing teaser with Lady Gaga reinterpreting Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And based on last year they did a spot that was kind of based on John Denver's Take Me Home, Country Roads kind of thing. And they timed it where they were kind of playing a karaoke to the spot in the stadium during that commercial break, like the TV timeout. And so when it came back to the game, the crowd was still singing it. So it was like this weird meta thing. And their whole thing was kind of like around togetherness and neighborliness. And there's a lot of stats out there around like how, I don't know, some crazy stat of how many Americans don't know their next door neighbor's first name and stuff like that. So, which ties into a lot of sort of divisiveness issues probably within the country. This feels like it's going to be very vibes based, very sort of warm, heartwarming. But again, I think in terms of anticipation, and I think people are going to pay attention because it's one of the biggest pop stars in the world with a iconic kind of childhood remix song remixed, that I think will get people's attention pretty quickly.
Yeah, I feel like you could play the first couple chords of this song and people's eyes are already teary. Like, it's just, it's a song that's just, instant nostalgia. And I feel like everyone loves Mr. Rogers. And the addition of Lady Gaga.
It's going to be, it'll be pretty interesting to see. It'll be cool to see what they actually do with it, if it's just a kind of a music video or what. But I think people like it.
Yeah, because actually, that's something I like about this teaser, is that it doesn't tell you too much about what the real ad is going to be, which, as you've said, is something that we are sort of lacking now in the Super Bowl ad ecosystem. So I like that there's a bit of anticipation there.
I've gotten a preview, and I think people will be very pleasantly surprised. I think it will match the expectations and certainly get people's attention. And again, almost be a vibe shift, because there's a lot of comedy, obviously, like our picks, there's a lot of comedy. I think the spots, the few spots that kind of pick a moment and do it really well with a little bit of a vibe shift or a tone shift will score. Okay, let's just check out the Lady Gaga clip.
Mr. Rogers was so clearly someone that stood for something.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor.
And it is powerful to think of what he would say right now. And it's kind of a special song to revisit at this time.
Please won't you be my neighbor?
Right when she plays that first piano trill.
Like you said, like it's like that.
My eyes are already
the first
watering.
few notes. It's like everyone kind of like, even if I didn't remember immediately that was Mr. Rogers, it's kind of like there's something in the back of your brain that goes, hey, what? I should be, paying attention right now. Yeah, it's going to get people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely.
We both have the same number one. So why don't we just watch our number one and then we'll talk about it.
I'm as free as a bird now, and this bird you'll never change. Oh, and the bird you cannot change. Lord, I can't change. Won't you fly?
Crying?
The sun's in my eyes.
When I saw this the first time, I was like, oh my God.
I can't beliave this shot. This is crazy.
Because I didn't get that was an eaglet at first when I was first watching it. And the bird's coming. I was like, it's a fucking eagle.
That is me neither. That shot is wild.
Come on. So this is what I read afterwards. I saw the spot blind and, as I said, did not know it was an eagle at first. I don't know what was going on. Where's the puppy? That was my head. And yeah. And then when that
where's the
horse was jumping, it was like, oh, they're doing it. They're going full America, capital letters. And it's but it makes sense both from a Budweiser, they've always been pretty patriotic in that way, over the top in some ways, but like it's Budweiser's 150th anniversary this year and America's 250th anniversary. So the Clydesdale and the Eagle combo makes perfect sense. With Freebird, I mean, people are gonna love it. I think there just should have been maybe with those two dudes at the end, maybe a dog. I don't know. That was the only thing that was maybe missing.
I mean, I think this ad is hilarious. I don't know if that was their intention, but the shot where the eagle, it looks like a flying horse for a second. Crazy, so funny. I think it's just like, to me, it's the escalation of these ads that really gets me. The fact that they have to like keep doing something more emotional and more over the top.
Yes.
It's very much,
but kind of in a
America
great way. I feel like
energy.
there's a way this spot won't come off as too like, it's not like truck nuts or something. This is like it's a type of patriotism that is kind of funny, but also like even if you're laughing, you're kind of, I'm not even American. I'm just like, man, that is cool as shit. That is pretty awesome. And it's a kind of the nonpartisan patriotism, if that the shred of it that still exists.
Yeah, it's palatable America for the masses for sure. And it's worked for them before, and I think it'll work again. It's got already the video
Nice.
has like
and who God knows
3
what
million
else on
views or
social.
something
I
on
feel
YouTube,
like
I
it'll
think.
be, it's definitely, and this is one of those brands. Budweiser's just one of those brands that, there's expectation, like you said, like they're just ramping up, like, well, how many puppies can we do now? Like what's happening? And so how do you top a puppy? An eaglet.
Right. Which a little eaglet. And that really works with the size
sure.
of the eaglet compared to the horse. Visually, that's working. I think we did talk about how this format is like a tried and true for them and normally works. I went back and watched, and they have had a couple where I felt like, I think you were mentioning this, like there was one in 2024 where
in the
they're
snow,
delivering beer to a bar in the middle of the night. In the snow. It's like they ran out of beer and they need to get more beer. And then the yellow lab, which is normally the animal that stars in these commercials, just sort of comes out of nowhere at the end of the ad. And that one I was like, okay, that kind of makes no sense in this situation. This one I like that they kept it tight with the baby bird. That's what we needed to see before the final
100%.
eagle transformation.
There wasn't too much story, and the emotional payoff. I don't know. What do you think of the sound? What other song could fit here? I mean, I don't know. That was a great Free Bird with the bird. That was awesome. We have our momentum going into the game. Obviously, everyone else is going to have their own choices or picks. So let us know in the comments and on social what you think. And like I said earlier, right now I've got an interview with Mark Gross and Chad Broude from Highdive, who created the Jeep ad as well as the Lay's ad for this year. And they have hundreds in their back catalog of Super Bowl spots. So it was a really great chat, and let's take a look at that. 2 side notes. I mistakenly said in the intro that Mark and Chad had experience at agency Leo Burnett. That was their CEO, Megan Lally. And also my video in this interview looks like I'm in some sort of sketchy hostage situation. I assure you I was safe and well fed. So Grace will be back after the interview. Let's go to Mark and Chad. Okay, look, I can write and talk all day long about Super Bowl ads, which ones I like, which ones I think work best. But for this segment, I wanted to really get a look behind the curtain into how the most high-profile advertising of the year is actually made. So I'm incredibly happy to welcome Mark Gross and Chad Broude to the pod. Mark and Chad are co-founders and co-chief creative officers of Chicago-based independent ad agency Highdive. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Quick little history lesson for listeners. Highdive was founded in 2016. Mark and Chad are vets of classic Chicago agencies like Leo Burnett and DDB Chicago, among others, I'm sure. Though I know, Mark, you were what, like 20 something years at was it DDB?
DDB, yeah, 21 years here in Chicago.
So you guys, before you even started Highdive, had a ton of Super Bowl spots under your collective belts, and on top of making top quality work across the board, I mean, Highdive very quickly built a reputation as a Super Bowl specialist. I think the first time I covered you guys was maybe around the 2020 Super Bowl, and your fantastic Jeep commercial starring Bill Murray reliving the classic 93 comedy Groundhog Day. Was that the first official Highdive Super Bowl ad?
That was our kind of coming out party. That year we had 2 spots that really kind of helped our reputation as a Super Bowl shop. The Jeep Bill Murray Groundhog Day spot was a great one, but we also had a really great one for Rocket Mortgage when Jason Momoa rips his muscles off,
yes.
Which I think we equally kind of adore and love for helping us kind of build that reputation.
Rocket Mortgage understands that home where I can be myself. And that feels pretty darn good. Oh.
That was a great one. And both were right there in the ad meter, I believe. However important that is to guys like you and the audience, but like they both ranked. So that must have been great.
Yeah, I think we were a 1 and 5 that year. So it's funny, we were concerned for both our clients because one of our former clients had worked at Jeep and he was now on the Rocket brand. So we were like, is Jeep gonna win? Or are we gonna win with Rocket? But it turned out Jeep won, and that turned out best for all. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure both of them were stoked as hell. The work was great. I wanted to kind of walk through the typical Super Bowl ad process. So like, when in the year does it start? And how does that process work? And I'm obviously caveats that, each brand is a special snowflake and everybody works differently, but like, and frankly, I think Mark, I was listening to your interview with Omid on Talking to Ourselves from a couple years ago, and I think you said that you guys did the Jeep Bill Murray ad was like filmed like the weekend before the Super Bowl ad or something insanely short, a short filming process. I'm sure that's not typical, but is there a typical kind of process for what these things go through?
Yeah, there isn't really. Each client is different. Back in the Anheuser-Busch days, we did a spot once in the summer. They liked it so much, they held it. They put it away and filed it away until the Super Bowl came and said, we're going to put on Super Bowl. But most clients, if they're buttoned up and they get their ducks in a row and they're smart in the marketing, they start early, and we start late summer in September. Like Rocket every year used to brief us end of summer. We would do rounds and rounds of work, and he would call us right before Thanksgiving, usually the CMO, and let us know what we were producing. And then you're off and running and producing it. But truth be told, Jeep was decided last minute, and we literally shot that, I think, on the Saturday, Sunday. The editor was in a hotel room, and we were feeding him film. And he was editing that on the run, as we finished the day. It was crazy.
Is that the tightest? Is that the shortest timeline yet?
I think I would agree. Yes,
that has to be. I don't think, because we even finished on Monday. The networks want you to ship like the week before. So like we were shooting like past the ship deadline of the actual spot. But yeah, that's not ideal. But we've been close before. I mean, sometimes it leaks to mid-January before you know it, and the post and edit schedule gets a little bit more aggressive.
Has that evolved at all? Because I'm just thinking about like not just the news cycle, but the pop culture cycle has ramps up quite a bit. Not that, all like Super Bowl ads are like talking about what happened last week, but I wonder just like the different moods or different things. Does that change, I guess, how the process works, or maybe how late it's pushed to which maybe version is picked? Because I think I heard, again, Mark, your great interview there with Omid was, I think you talked about, maybe it was the Momoa ad. There was maybe 9 versions or 9 different ads or something like that, where you guys, the client was had to pick from. So do you guys typically do a selection and then they pick? And how has that process evolved?
What you see a lot more with brands now is they really try to capitalize of the lead up to the game too.
Right. Yeah.
So, some brands have, they really try to look, I think it's $15 million now for a 60. And you could really get a little bit more juice out of that orange if you select the concept earlier and have a kind of a program leading up to it. Get a little buzz on social, a lot of earned media if you kind of tease it. So it depends how important that is to the brands. I think everyone wants to take advantage of it, but there's just some realities that sometimes get in the way of being able to lock the edit as soon as you'd like to.
In the Anheuser-Busch days, when I was doing Bud Light, we'd often shoot sometimes 6, 7, 8 commercials just for the game. And they kind of put them into very quick qual testing at the end. And it was a very simple process. And then they'd pick the spots and usually run, 3 to 5 on the game, depending on somewhere Budweiser, somewhere Bud Light. And then in the case of Rocket, you mentioned, we shot a lot of vignettes. It was a vignette spot, telling joke after joke. And so we were able to choose what we wanted before the game. And so the process, we sat down with the CMO, what would look best on the game? What do we think is the funniest? And then we held that footage too and made spots for after the game. So we cut 30s out of that spot we shot. And a funny story, we were all set to go with a different end joke. So in the rocket spot, because he wasn't strong and he didn't have his muscles, Lisa Bonet was supposed to open the pickle jar for him. He couldn't get the pickle jar open.
Okay.
And we're having trouble with the effects. We couldn't get his head placement right because we were on a different body. We had a stand and double, it had a skinny body.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't get that to work. And we had the CMO had screamed at us that night. We were up at 3 a.m. and we couldn't get it to work. And we wound up going with the him trying to lift weights at the end. So sometimes its effects don't work or different things happen. And that's how we chose that.
You got this.
Take it.
Okay, all right. Good job.
Chad, you were talking about like the idea of like the emphasis of the pre-hype and that kind of thing. I've kind of think of this as like Super Bowl season from like mid-January to through the game, and the emergence of whether it's trailers, teasers, sort of misdirect red herring ads, all these different things. How has that the kind of emergence of that type of work changed the overall process, or is it just added to the to-do list?
I think it's changed a lot. I think years ago it was really a one-day event, and now it's become like a 6-week event. We always say you could win the Super Bowl 3 times, like before the game, during the game, and after the game.
Yeah, agreed.
You've seen it in the past with like Sarah V, where I think most of their success was before the game and how they kind of won TikTok and the social conversation. And then, some spot shows up in the game and has success. And then sometimes there's something a brand does the day after or, continues it. So I think that's a big focal point, especially with the investment you're making. And it's the one time, me and Mark always say, this is one time a year, like consumers like commercials.
Yeah.
For the most part, people avoid it at all costs. And you have a captive audience that isn't not only trying to avoid them, but they're seeking it out and they're trying to see them. And you could really take advantage of that captive audience if you have that robust plan.
What are the most common, I guess, questions or goals when a CMO is picks up the phone and calls Highdive and says, I think we might want to do a Super Bowl ad? What are the questions you ask the CMO, or what are the questions they should be asking themselves besides how deep the pockets are when they're considering doing a Super Bowl ad? And has that evolved over the last number of years?
One of the things we always want to find out is what is your end goal as a CMO? What do you want from the game? Because we always say some brands may want to go on the game and get a lot of attention and get their brand out there, and don't necessarily want to win the ad meters and the ad polls.
Yeah.
And we've had other CMOs that are very interested in that, and that is the number one KPI. And they like, our goal is to be number one in USA Today. So that's the first thing we ask them is like, what do you ideally want out of this? And then we'll go from there. Chad, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. I think our point of view is immediately it's worth it. Time and time again, the ROI, no matter if you won the game and you were the spot of the night or you kind of fell in the middle of the pack, you wait a few weeks and the metrics are there, whether it drives traffic to their site or the share of voice online or sales or whatever they're looking for, you could justify it. Mark and I always say, everyone always wins that night. You go look on LinkedIn the day after, and every brand will have won something. Someone will USA Today, some will win the X conversation, some will win the most liked spot. It's because it's effective. And I don't think it's agencies, blowing smoke. I think everyone's really winning in their own way.
Is that a surprise to you, given like the media fragmentation and just generally the level of difficulty of gaining people's attention, particularly on a mass level? Does that kind of impact, I would say, hasn't changed, but that's still there as strong as it is?
Live sports are still, that's why the NFL is so powerful. Live sports are still garnering a giant audience. And so it's, again, it is fractured in its share of eyeballs and share of voice, but live sports and live events are still gaining attention and getting the folks. I mean, it's 120 20, 30 million people watching the Super Bowl. So
I think it's the one time a year that fragmentation isn't really a thing as much. On that night, more people than not are watching the game, whether they're streaming it or, watching on linear. But I think it's a little taste of where, media used to be during that time. So that's why it continues to be worth it.
the money you pay for it speaks for itself. The market has spoken. It's 12, 14 million for a 60-second spot, and it is so for a reason. People are willing to pay it, I think, because it's so effective and you have so many people paying attention to the game. So it's going to continue as people continue to see the results and the ROI, they're going to continue to spend for the big spots and play on the game.
Look at me thinking where, well, two things. That a lot of the coverage, there's a lot of coverage, particularly pre-Super Bowl, about how much the 30 seconds or how much a 60 seconds is and how much these brands are paying. And then there's the kind of idea of you got to win the ad meter, and a lot of, from the advertising, maybe industry side. This is the importance of that. One thing I was wondering from your guys' perspective, are there any misconceptions either from an industry marketer / agency side to the sort of general audience pop culture side, any misconceptions around Super Bowl commercials generally that stick out in your minds in terms of any of those types of issues?
I don't think winning the ad meter is only an industry thing, because what happens if you win the ad meter is you get a second Super Bowl on Monday. Right. Every news station across the country is going to highlight the #1 ad meter spot. So not only did you just get 120 million people on Sunday, the following day you're getting another 50 million, because every local and national news station is saying, and yesterday's big winner was.
yeah.
So your investment is getting you're getting more out of your investment by winning just because of the news coverage. And then if people, for some reason weren't paying attention, they're going to go online and go watch the spot that got the #1. So I don't know if that's a huge misconception, but there's more value to just bragging rights of, placing 1 or 2. You really just get a second wave of the Super Bowl.
From an advertising creative perspective, folks in your industry, maybe younger junior creatives or folks coming up, that I imagine, obviously doing a Super Bowl ad is incredibly high on the bucket list, on the career bucket list. Any conversations or questions from juniors that like creatives that not maybe misconceptions, but what do you say to maybe first timers or that are coming onto a Super Bowl campaign?
We like to tell creatives the same thing we tell our clients is, #1, don't try to hit the grand slam and think you have to be big and loud and do something with a celebrity for celebrity's sake. For us, it's always about what is the great, simple idea and what is the simple storytelling, and start from there, and then you build upon that. Because when you look at the past spots that have done well in the top 10, it's usually always a simple story that people can relate to, that has an interesting insight. And a good example is when you think back to the Darth Vader spot for Volkswagen, which is one of my favorite spots of all time. It just was such simple, beautiful storytelling. And that's what we tell creatives. Just think of a great idea. It's all about what is the core advertising idea. Chad, I don't know if you got any thoughts there.
Yeah, where I think brands miss, and I'll remind especially younger creatives this, is don't lose sight of the fundamentals. Right. Do the same things we've always done, is clear storytelling, let the viewer know who it's from and what the message is about. Now, as you approach it, okay, let's do something extreme. Let's make it extremely funny or extremely emotional or extremely surprising. But once you land on that big, bold concept, tell an ad, make an ad. I think consumers like when they understand what the ad was about and who it's from. I think you'll watch the game, you're like, what was that? And I think it's a brand kind of forgot like everything they do the other 364 days a year.
Yeah, there's a bit of a syndrome where, particularly, or maybe it's around celebrity or whatever, but like the logo at the end could maybe be interchanged. And that's maybe what you don't want, is that this ad could be literally for anything. It was just a moment of entertainment.
Yeah, and that's the worst when people don't remember the brand. So again, that's always something that's very important to us. We always say, like, the story has to be built around the brand itself. rather than just borrowed interest and slapping that logo on, because you want people talking about the brand and not just, do you remember that spot? What was the brand? So we're all, as consumers, I think we've been guilty of that. In the past, of like, I don't, that was a great spot. Who was it for? I don't remember.
I remember the bit or whatever the joke is, but not who the ad was for, what the actual, who paid for it.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to like, those choices are strategic choices. You guys have done a lot of amazing work in comedy. Obviously, we've talked about the Jeep with Bill Murray and Rocket Mortgage with whether it's Jason Momoa or Tracy Morgan, and also for Lay's for that matter. I think it was Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen a couple of years ago. But then last year for Lay's, you guys went full heartwarmer with the little farmer story. Speaking of a tight story that the brand was kind of at the core of. How do you decide? Do you think about the Super Bowl ad field and the tone of the game overall at all, and like where this spot might fit? But that's what I'm thinking when everyone's going comedy. Sometimes a tonal change, like a nice story like that, is like people just like, whoa, pay attention. How do you decide on that? Go between, for example, comedy or, heartstrings when you're thinking up a strategy?
If you were a wink, I'd be a nod. If you were a seed, well, I'd be a pod. If you were a floor, I'd want to be a rug. And if you were a kiss, I know I'd be a hug.
For us, it's just getting with the client and coming up with the best strategic insight and strategy, and what's right tonally for the brand at the time. We wanted to convey a message that, oddly enough, there's some of America, I think the statistic is somewhere between 30 and 40% of Americans don't believe that Lay's are made from real potato chips.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why. They just think it's this large brand and they're just knocking the things out, but they're not. They're real potatoes made on real American farms across America. And so for us, we felt that was a serious message, and tonally that felt right for the game at the time. We just didn't want to make a joke about it. And so it really depends on the brand, but we sit down and think, let's come up with a really smart strategy and what our tone is, how we want to talk to the audience and do it. But I do agree, sometimes the quieter you are in the game, the more you stand out. I don't know if Chad, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we just attack it every which way.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll be like, okay, like whether it's State Farm, like the year we did like a Geneva, I think we also presented some heartfelt or some powerful spots. And then, you have good relationships with your clients and you kind of, weigh which way to go. So it's funny, we'll brief it, like, guys, let's go really, really funny. And then you kind of land on a few really funny scripts. You're like, all right, now let's take a week and let's just go kind of emotional and heartfelt. And then at the end of it, you could, present both and decide together or figure out which one's more powerful. But I guess the messaging plays a good part too. Like with Lay's is like, it was a real message. And sometimes comedy comes at the expense of the sincerity of what you're trying to say.
I wanted to get some story time in here because let's just say we're not on a video call here. You guys are stuck sitting next to me on an airplane. And I know if you work in advertising, the second you sort of mention you work in advertising to anybody, they'll sort of ask, what'd you do? Or I didn't like this, or this ad I like. Any good anecdotes from a Super Bowl spot? I know, Chad, I feel like I heard about a golf course phone call like with Bill Murray at one point, but what are the sort of craziest or the stories that stick out from your Super Bowl experience that you can say in public?
That's the crazy. I mean, the Jeep one's the crazy. It's funny. I'm actually on set right now with Jim Jenkins, who directed Groundhog Day for us. We're doing another project right now. So at dinner last night, we were reliving all of these, but that one was just, it was the speed of it. It was, when we shared the idea with Jeep, and then they're like, look, we get Bill, we'll do that. Kind of a little dismissive. And then you get a call on January 10th, and it's, Bill Murray. What's funny is they're like, we put his number in our phone, and he was supposed to call at 2:00. And 2:00 came by and nothing. 3:00, 4:00. And okay, well, that's how Bill Murray's story. He was supposed to call, he never did. 8:30, the phone rings, and then he was golfing, and you could tell that he was like driving the golf cart because like the wind was going through the phone. And I think I called Mark after and like, what do you say? I'm like, I don't really know because I couldn't hear half of it, but I think he wants to do this. So that's a really good one.
Nice. Yeah.
The other interesting one was, for Lays, we did the Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen spot. It was good news and bad news. The guys were like, we're very interested. Let's get on a call. We get on the call. We send them the script. We want to do it. We don't like the script. So we're like, okay. And so we had a completely 360 rewrite the script multiple times. We even got on some writing sessions with those guys. And what's his name from?
We had a writing session with Tim Robinson.
Tim Robinson.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they wanted to bring in some freelance writers. They didn't add much, to be honest. But so that was a pivot. Also, I got barked at by Lisa Bonet on the set of Rocket, which was pretty fun. David Shane, the director, he's like, Lisa's got this good idea, and he vamps in front of Lisa a joke that he wants to use, and I'm like, I just was thinking about it in my head, and she thought I was rejecting it. She goes, you don't have to use it if you want. I know how you writers can be sensitive. I'm like, no. I was thinking. I was like, okay. I just got yelled at by Lisa Bonet. That was
nice.
Fun.
Nice. That's
yeah. We had a good time a few years ago with State Farm on the Arnold Schwarzenegger spot too. It's just like in your head, you wanted that classic like kindergarten cop moment where he's like, screams and like you're watching the spot, and finally that one take when he's like, yes, and like that's like that sense of relief. And then we had a lot of good ones even last year for State Farm on Bateman versus Batman. Although the spot got pushed and went to March Madness, it was supposed to be a Super Bowl spot, and that was just building Gotham like that was just a blast. And like I don't know, it was just like every part of the production value. We dropped a Brinks truck from like 50 feet in the air, and I think that's going to get rarer and rarer, especially with AI emerging to do shots like that.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's like in the moment, it's fun but nerve-wracking because you want it to turn out. And for me, I can't even exhale until it's in the game, and then you're on Twitter and people like it. Right. So that's when I loosen up a little bit, but I'm also broken. Some people could enjoy the journey a little bit more than
I will tell you one more good one. We were on our first call with Tracy Morgan, who is a lovely man, by the way, the nicest person and just so easy to work with. But when we get on with Craig Gillespie, the director, and he's going to take him through the storyboards, and about 20 minutes in, he says, "Okay, that's enough. When I show up at the set, I want to improv and I'm ready." And I think my wife's calling me. It's baby making time. She's ovulating, and of course he was joking around, and that's it. He got off the call. I was like, "Hold on, honey, I'm coming." And is it? And he was like, "Okay, we'll see you on the shoot." But we all had a good laugh about that. But he was an absolute pleasure to work with.
Working with comedians who want to write is probably one of the more thrilling parts of it. With Groundhog Day, we got on. Jim and the team got on with Bill and his brother like every 3 days, and
amazing.
They had a lot of good bits, and like he's a legend. And like even with Seth and Paul, like I think every 3 days we talk, and it was like they were cool, they were respectful. It wasn't like and just those are some of the greatest memories I have of it. Is just like getting on those and laughing together, and it's some of the parts I enjoy most of the job is the writing leading up to it, especially when you're working with legends like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say your top 3 favorites are? Chad, I'll start with you. And I realize I'm ambushing you here too.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Honestly, and I know this is gonna seem contrived, but like a lot of the work Mark did before I was in advertising in the Super Bowl.
There was like 90 of them or something.
I know, but like even there was a certain Bud Light one where these guys are about to go skydiving, and a guy gets nervous and he throws a case of Bud Light out the door, and he waits a second. The pilot runs out of the cockpit and jumps. Those are things that like that's what I want to do for a living. Like that one sticks out because I'm looking out the window and I could see Jim Jenkins, like, his Brady Bunch spot where they really kind of built the set around it and made it look like it was like the old characters. Those are the ones that, like, as the years passed and you look back and you see the Brady Bunch spot and the little Vader, the time tells, and like they're specialer than the pack, and they have lasting power.
Yeah.
So those are a few that come to mind.
Nice. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I have to, again, I think Vader is probably Darth Vader Volkswagen, one of my faves of all time. There's also an old FedEx spot, caveman. He comes to deliver to the chief caveman guy the FedEx box, and he's late. He told him he should have shifted FedEx, and then he steps out of the cave and gets stomped on by a dinosaur. I think that was Jim LeMay, the writer who we freelance sometimes at the agency. And then I think it was Super Bowl. This dates back to 1997. There was a Nissan 350Z ad where Barbie gets picked up by Ken, and it was all done in animation.
Okay.
And it had a Van Halen track, that was also one of my faves. But and lastly, one of my faves, also Audi. They have a lot of great taste in some of the work they do. The prom date where the guy runs to the prom, picks up the girl, leaves, and he gets punched in the eye, and he has a black eye as he's driving down the road. And that was one of my faves.
The other great one that I always comes to mind is it was for E-Trade, and it's just like the monkey in the garage,
Oh my
clapping
God.
his hands.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we just wasted $6 million on this spot. What do you do with your money? And it was just like, oh wow, that was killer.
It's like peak
E-Trade
.com
is-
era, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your guys' time here because it's we talk about this stuff, again, like you said, the second Super Bowl, people are judging for themselves on the ad meter and talking on social about each and every ad. So it's really great to get a bit of a peek behind the curtain here with you guys, and you've done so much great work. Congrats on that, and thank you for it, because it's again, so much of it sort of, I don't know, say blends together, but the work you guys do is exceptional. And just appreciate your time.
No, thanks for saying that. And this is fun. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's always it never gets old working on Super Bowl. My mom still gets excited and wants to know what I have on the game, and it's still a kid in the candy store every time we have a spot. We never ever take it for granted. It's always a blast. And yeah, look out for our spot this year for Lay's. It's going to be somewhat similar to what we did last year, but a new great story called Last Harvest. So hopefully everyone loves it as much as they liked last year's.
Chad, I hope you have. You're not clenched the whole game waiting to see what people think of the Lay's spot. I'm sure it'll be fine.
No, I will be.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so earlier in the show, we were talking about the mix of our favorites and what ads we thought would work from this year's game. But what makes Super Bowl advertising special is its legacy. It's one of the only things left, cultural water cooler talk, live event, biggest audience, at least in the US, all year round, that the ads actually mean something. So I wanted to take a look back at that legacy by doing a Super Bowl ad all-timers draft. And joining us for these festivities is Fast Company's own David Salazar. Welcome, David.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
Well, I wanted to throw a little context check at you, wondering what do you think about Super Bowl ads generally? Do you watch the game? Do you watch the game for the ads? What's your relationship with Super Bowl ads, man?
Yeah, I love a Super Bowl party, so I love a Super Bowl as like an opportunity to riff on whatever's going on. So I'll watch the ads. I'm often there for the musical, the halftime performance this year. I'm really excited about Bad Bunny, but I'll watch the ads mostly to make fun of them, but often I will be surprised by how, solid an ad can be, which is sort of the beauty of of a good ad. There's a lot of mediocre ads for the Super Bowl, but when they're good, they're good.
It's a microcosm of everyday life. There's a lot of shit ads in the world. Once in a while, one surprises you, and it's a nice surprise. The draft is going to work like this. There are 5 categories. We got beer, automotive, junk food, which is basically snacks and soda and stuff, tearjerker, the ones that make you, cry,
Yes.
and a wild card for anything. Each one of us will pick one spot for each category, and we'll take turns one at a time until we each have a lineup of 5. There can be no duplicates. So if Grace, you pick one of my favorites, it's off the table, and I'll have to find something else. Then at the end, we'll see who has the strongest lineup of 5 spots, and hopefully maybe put up a social poll or something that people can vote on, see who has their 5 favorites. Does that sound okay, you guys? Grace, what is your all-time Super Bowl ad for beer?
All right, yes. So my top beer pick is a bit of a deep cut. I went back to the 90s. That's a deep cut for me. I don't know.
Swipe at my age.
About others. Like roasting Jeff throughout this episode. So if you're familiar with the original Budweiser Frogs ad, that one debuted in 1995 at the Super Bowl. It's 3 frogs singing the word Budweiser in different segments. I'm not going to try to recreate that. It's going to be horribly embarrassing.
Everyone's waiting for you to recreate that.
No.
Budweiser.
And then there's another edition in 1997 where the frogs jump into a speedboat and sort of take off into the lagoon. And I had not seen this before, but I did laugh out loud while watching it back.
Wise. Yeah, me either.
I remember the original on the lily pads, but I do not remember this one. David, have you seen that one?
I've not. It sounds great. I love the Budweiser
Speedboats,
frogs.
beer. Why not?
I feel like Budweiser commercials, especially around that time, it was very early, Gonzo marketing, right? Because it doesn't. I mean, the frogs just say Budweiser, and then I think the weirdest one is probably the What's Up one, which is very
Hey, that's about friendship and beer. What do you mean? That makes total sense. It makes way more sense than frogs. Frogs are just trying to, it's just the cuteness factor. That's about it. It's like Spuds McKenzie and Bud Light. You guys don't even know who that is, do you? Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh my God. Everyone over 40 is just oh, Jesus. It was a dog. It was a dog, an American Bull Terrier, I think, that whose name was Spuds McKenzie. He was basically the Bud Light mascot for the entire 80s and 90s, or part of the 90s, I guess. I digress. David, what is your all-time beer ad pick?
Mine is one that's slightly more recent, because I'm saving another one for the tearjerker segment. But I think that this was a great way to, in 2019, Bud Light had its Bud Night, what I think is the single most annoying piece of advertising of the past 10 years.
You bastard. You're
dilly,
picking mine.
Dilly dilly. Oh, really?
Keep going. No, this is it.
This is what I like to see. Battle
right off
it
the
out.
bat here.
Well, in this commercial, the Bud Knight goes up in a joust against a mostly unseen opponent who immediately knocks him off his horse with his lance. And then it's revealed that it's the Mountain from Game of Thrones, and he proceeds to pop the Bud Knight's head like a cherry. Which is a beautiful send-off for an annoying piece of IP. And a great integration. I think it was around the end of Game of Thrones, and it was a really good work there.
As pissed off as I am at you for taking my pick, I completely agree. This was leading into it was the Super Bowl leading into exactly the final season of Game of Thrones was in April, so it was going to launch in that April 2019, and it just I didn't mind the dilly dilly stuff. I thought it was kind of funny, but it was one of those, like when you're talking about surprises or being at a Super Bowl party, it was just like, holy shit, that was unexpected. You don't expect someone HBO to lend its IP to Bud Light, and that was a good one. Damn it. Okay, so now I'm caught. Sorry. I'm caught here, and I don't know. I did not have a beer backup because I was convinced no one was going to pick 2019 random beer ad. So I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to go for the social poll points here because I think What's Up, I'm going to go 2000 because neither of you were born probably. So the What's Up was that started as a short film, and then Budweiser repurposed it into its Super Bowl ad. And I feel like it's kind of an easy pick for an all-timer for beer because it was surprising. It wasn't like a gimmick. It was a gimmick, but it was a different kind of gimmick. It was about friendship and just hanging out, and it kind of changed the vibe around Budweiser for a while. It was very cool. And yeah, I just think if you're going to pick a Bud ad, it's probably in the, especially the expected Bud ads that you'd pick for an all-timer. This is probably one or two on most people's list. So,
Yo. What's that? What's that? Hold on. Hello?
Budweiser is a marquee Super Bowl advertiser for a reason. This is why. I mean, we're talking. They had I'm not sure for these years we're talking, but for a long time, AB InBev and had exclusive beer advertising rights in the Super Bowl. So there's not a lot of beer choice when it came to Super Bowl spots. So I think we're all right there. Okay, so the next category, I'm gonna save Tearjerker. Actually, let's go automotive. And if someone, I have two marked here, and if you guys pick these two, I'm gonna freak out. Okay, Grace.
All right. Well, obviously there are a lot. This was a tough one for me, but I think I'm going to go with what I consider the ultimate nostalgia play, Matthew's Day Off for Honda CRV in 2012.
Shit. He bought it. How can I handle work on a day like today? One of the worst performances of my career, and he never doubted it for a second. Hi, can I get my CRV brought up, please? I've got a lot to do today.
It plays well. He's one of those actors where he can still sort of pull off the youthful energy years after the original role. And yeah, for me, this one just this hit all the right notes.
Is that in 2012?
It's a good one.
Doesn't feel that long ago.
Yeah,
that one. That ad, not 2012, but that ad. Grace, what was your? Here's a question, Gen Z question. What's your connection to? Were you a fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Is that a movie you like or watched?
Yeah, I watched it growing up many times for sure. So nostalgic for me.
It's a great movie. Yeah, totally nostalgic. So this was going to be my pick, Grace. Kind of mad at you for this one.
Nice.
But,
nabbed it.
Yes. I mean, I picked it for a slightly more macabre reason. Obviously, I like it. But I don't know how much you know about Matthew Broderick, but in the 80s, he was in Ireland and he hit a car head on and killed the two people in the car. So it seems kind of insane for him to do a car commercial in general.
You know what, David? I don't think that'd be. I mean, yes, 100%. It's a little weird.
It'd
be weirder if it was a Honda.
That's actually crazy, David. I did not make that connection. I knew that had happened, but I didn't even think about that when I watched the ad.
Well, it's
great ad for that reason. Didn't make me think of it.
I'm glad that's the case. It was so great to see him do that, though. I loved Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That seems to be a bit of a thing over the years. So you have I can't remember what year now. I want to say 2018 or something. But Bill Murray doing Groundhog Day for Jeep, another automotive, which I did not pick. But that's these reprisal roles. I think Macaulay Culkin did a Home Alone one for somebody recently.
Yes, I remember. That
was
pretty
for
recent too,
Home Instead. It's this senior care, in-home senior care brand where he did Kevin McAllister. which, sadly prescient. It was like, how's your mom or whatever. And sadly, Catherine O'Hara died just this past week. Okay, so here's what I have instead, which is another more recent pick, but it's BMW, Christopher Walken, 2024. And I think it's really nice when a celebrity doesn't take themselves too seriously. Walken goes to the valet and he gets his car. He's like, oh, nice ride. It's the real deal. And then, the guy just does his Christopher Walken impression. And then throughout the commercial, Christopher Walken encounters people who are just doing an impression of him to his face. And it's a very funny.
Nice ride.
It's the real deal. 100% electric.
It's the real deal.
Yeah. Thank you. Of course. Enjoy your coffee. Careful, it's hot.
Okay, that is a great pick, but great recent pick. Walken, I feel like he's one of those celebrities where for a Super Bowl ad, you can't go wrong.
No.
Okay, my pick, automotive. God, I was convinced one of you guys was going to go for this VW ad, but I'm going to go a little off piste. I was going to pick, this is a classic one. I'm not picking this. The one I'm not picking is VW 2011 The Force, which is a little kid dressed up as Darth Vader. Not only is it an adorable spot, but it was, I think, the first that any brand dropped completely full ad online the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. And so it started this whole Super Bowl season that we are now just surrounded by.
It's VW's fault that this is what our life
100%,
is now.
100%. So that was in 2011. But I'm going to pick 2009 Hyundai. So this, for context, the 2009 Super Bowl was right after the fall of 2008, where the financial crisis began. Lots of just not great times. And they came out with this spot, a pretty quick turnaround must have been, but they came out with this spot where it's basically saying, look, you buy a Hyundai, and if you lose your job within the next year, you can just return it with no penalties, no questions asked, whatever, because we care about our customers, blah, 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 blah.
A car company that stands behind its customers. Maybe commitment isn't so scary after all.
On the surface of it, not a, groundbreaking spot, really. One, it was voiced by Jeff Bridges. Amazing. Much like Walken. Can't go wrong with the Bridges. Two, it had an incredibly massive impact. There was a 59% jump in brand consideration for Hyundai at that time. Their actual market share went from 3.1% to 4.3% in early 2009, which is big for car sales. And despite at the time, despite a 22% industry-wide sales drop in September 2009, Hyundai's sales were up 27%. So actual Super Bowl advertising that actually worked and sort of tied into a cultural moment that wasn't funny or whatever, wasn't the cultural zeitgeist, but in a pop cultural way, but it did tap into something that the country was going through, and it worked. So that's my automotive pick.
Wow, look at you bringing data to this. I thought this was
I
a
was
fully
going to say, I
vibes-based.
feel unprepared. That was really informative.
I'm going to go buy a Hyundai now. Good job, Jeff.
Jeff Bridges does it every time. Okay,
I'm
so
influenced.
So snacks or tearjerker? What do you think? What do you want to do first? Grace, you're picking, so I'll let you pick the category.
Okay, let's just do snacks because that's
right.
next on my list. That's my criteria.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to go Snickers 2010
God
Hungry
damn it.
Betty White, which honestly, I think this just kind of hit different after her passing. Just watching it, she was so funny.
Mike, what is your deal, man?
Oh, come on, man. You've been riding me all day.
Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
Baby.
Eat a Snickers. Better?
It was really funny at the time. I think I would have been 8, so I'm not sure that I actually saw it then.
I was
but
35.
Yeah, this is just so funny. It works so well.
In 2010?
Don't tell on yourself.
Care.
Yeah, so I don't know. It sounds like you guys both had this on your list.
Yeah, it's one
Maybe.
I had it as a short list pick, but yeah, it's great. And it spawned a whole at least one more. There was one with Aretha Franklin, again R.I.P., where she's in the back seat and they're like, "Have you eaten? You're kind of a diva when you're hungry."
Guys, listen.
It's great.
First of all, I was covering advertising when this aired. So the actual campaign for this started. I don't know if it started the fall before the Super Bowl, but this was the high point in this. But there were, to David's point, there were others. But the one that launched it was actually probably the second best one, and it was Joe Pesci at like a house party, and he just starts like ranting at this girl for being rude, and this buddy comes up, he's like, "Dude, like relax," gives him and that's a pretty funny one too.
And I love a moment where Betty White gets to show off that she's a little edgier than her old woman demeanor might suggest.
Did you guys think that
fun.
sparked, or was that in the middle of because there was like a Betty White assance happening around that time? Like I don't know if she was in a show, there was like, or she was just in a bunch of ads, but she was like,
she was in a show. There was Hot in Cleveland, but I think it was part of that for sure. She sort of had it. There was also that like prank show she did for a while, but I think that was like a little later. I do think 2010 was like the upswing of the Betty White renaissance, the White-assance, as I said.
Okay, David.
Well, I can't do that, but I have actually another slightly more recent pick. I think it'd be too obvious to go with Mean Joe Green, which was one of mine. But, 2022 for Lay's, Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd are they're dressed for a wedding. I assume Seth Rogen's getting married and Paul Rudd is his best man, and they're like, you got this. Remember all the good times we've had, or like, how our friendship has survived. And in every instance, they've got like a bag of Lay's. Like the plane is almost crashing and they're hyperventilating into their Lay's bag. And for some reason, he buys a haunted house and there's a ghoul there, but they've got their Lay's.
I've never seen any of your movies. Not even the ones we were together.
Hey, do you remember when that stalker kidnapped us?
Yes.
Lay's was there.
Lay's. Do you have barbecue or cheddar jalapeno?
Ooh. And that's all fine. You're like, this is a very standard like Lay's commercial, whatever. And then they're like, all right, let's do this. And then it cuts to Seth Rogen at the altar, and it turns out that he's marrying the ghost from the house that he bought.
Hi, I'm Seth.
Those are good times. They were golden. You ready?
Seth, do you?
I do.
And Janet, do you?
That's a yes.
And it's a great reveal and a really like wonderful way to turn like what is otherwise a very straightforward sort of like clip show-esque commercial on its head and leave you with a laugh in a good way.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And I say this but with the understanding that I love Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen. And I love Lay's chips, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest. But I will say one thing that struck me, even when that ad came out, was I don't know. I feel like you could just put anything in their hand. Like there was nothing particularly Lay's about it.
The Lay's feel ancillary to, which I don't hate.
But, yeah,
but it does. Yeah, it's not like the product is the star. You're paying for the sort of approach of these two people, which I think succeeds. But you're right. I don't think anyone was like, I liked the Lay's commercial.
Right. I was like, I like the one with Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen. What were they selling again? That is like, I think, a brand's nightmare. And I feel like even since 22, that has changed. Like the jokes either involve the brand a little more. Like there's something there that's a little, or should be anyway, a little more tied into it. And speaking of, we're going to get to my pick, which I'm cheating. But it is a Super Bowl ad technically because it was part of what year? 2014. Doritos crashed the Super Bowl contest. And I'm not one to I'm not going to judge the public's voting sort of taste, but I am. They picked the wrong one.
They made the wrong call.
The wrong
It was too wholesome.
Call. Too wholesome. That was the pregnancy one that won that one, right? Was it? The ultrasound?
No, it's like a kid.
Oh, the rocket ship.
No. 2014. Yeah, it's like a kid building it's like too cute.
Oh, the time machine.
The time machine. Yes.
It's a time machine.
No time machine. The best ad of that year for snacks was finger cleaner, which is one of the still one of the weirdest ads, not only to be on the Super Bowl, but to be, I think, on primetime television or for a major brand, really.
Use the cleaner.
Oh. Touchdown.
Yeah, it only works with Doritos.
Why only Doritos?
You ask too many questions, Billy.
Have you seen this, Grace?
Yeah, the crazy thing is I know that I saw this at the time. I didn't rewatch for this, but this has left such a visceral imprint on my mind that I still know. I still know
Every time
about
I
it.
eat Doritos,
Yes!
I think about it. Actually.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Which honestly, do you guys have this issue like in the Dorito and Cheeto ads where they're like licking their fingers or anything like that? It really grosses me out. And this somehow was funny enough that I was like okay with it.
That's a good pick, Jeff. You gotta,
Okay.
I think that's a stone cold classic.
All right. That's okay. I'm happy that you like it. Okay. So now we get to the emotional part of the show with tearjerker category. Grace, what do you got for us?
Okay, I actually feel really strongly about my pick because this one I watched this morning and I cried at my laptop for like 20 minutes.
What?
It just kept making me cry. Yeah, and I am not an easy crier, but this one hit hard. Obviously all of my shortlist picks were dog related. I feel like that's the easiest way to hit most people's heartstrings. It seems to be a common theme at the Super Bowl. And this is one that I hadn't seen prior to my research, but it was from The Farmer's Dog in 2023.
Oh.
And it's sort of a classic setup, a girl and her dog growing up. The dog is slowly getting older over time. And then the final shot is like the music gets really quiet and it's just her looking at her old dog on their bed with her new family and softly singing to the dog. Oh my God. That
I'm gonna love you forever.
Hey there.
That's so beautiful.
That hurt me. You guys should watch it if you haven't. It really
oh my God.
did it for me.
That makes me so happy.
Tear-wise.
It doesn't make me happy because you picked my pick. So the Farmer's Dog ad was written and sort of run by a wonderful person named Teresa Etsy, who first hired me at my first job when I moved to New York at Ad Age Creativity. I moved home to Canada.
Oh my God.
And she also is the one who hired me at Fast Company in 2013. She wrote this book called The Idea Writers. She is awesome. And she had gone from Fast Company to Wieden & Kennedy. Wieden & Kennedy, I think, straight to the Farmer's Dog, was at Farmer's Dog for a bunch of years. And this was, she used to cover advertising and she won the friggin' Super Bowl that year.
That's amazing.
Wow. That's awesome. I had no
And she's
idea
an
of that
absolute
connection.
sucker for dogs. It was like the perfect job for her, the perfect spot. So, yay, Teresa, that's a great pick. Fast Company alum, guys.
Great.
Come on, that's great.
That's awesome.
Okay, David, you're
good.
up.
This one is not dog related. I could have gone. So this is. I hate to hand it to Budweiser again. But also for a beer I don't drink ever, pretty insane how much its advertising has infiltrated my life and everyone's life. 2013 Budweiser Brotherhood. This is the landslide one. Really, I think it's a feat of musical licensing more than anything, but it has Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks' dulcet tones over this guy raising one of the Budweiser Clydesdales on his farm, and then a few years later he goes to see the Clydesdales in some parade.
Did my love take it down? And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, a landslide will bring you down.
That's
It's so
that's
good.
a really good
you
one.
know,
That is a really good one.
just a pure human-animal relationship set to one of the most beautiful songs ever.
As we talked about in the first segment, I think this is a formula that works for Budweiser pretty much every time. It's like kind of difficult for them to mess this up.
Well, what do you guys think? Do you think that, like, I don't know if my perspective has changed or the advertising is different, but I felt not so much this year, funny enough, but in the last couple years that there were, I think the delivery one from last year, there's been a couple where it's like this animals, whether it's a pairing or just the dog or just the horse, where in more recent years, I feel like the spot has rushed through, and there's no kind of there's less connection with that character. Like I felt less sad and less emotional or whatever to those spots than I did even back, like 2013. Like I feel like, and I don't know if that's a pacing issue or maybe I got to go back and watch some of the old ones, and maybe it's just the lens through which I'm watching them now that I'll see it differently. But back then it felt like, oh my God, the dog, oh, the horse, oh, the guy, it's so sad. Like I thought it really, really worked. And now I'm finding like either I'm jaded or what, but they're sort of rushing through and trying to get to the sort of heart-wrenching or the emotional peak very, very quickly. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's very like perfunctory now. No, yeah, they like pioneered this sort of like mode of advertising their beer with like animals, and now it's just like, all right, we got the dog in the commercial. Something sad's gonna happen. So let's fucking move it along. We're paying by the second
year.
Yeah, I say it's difficult for them to mess it up, but I do think they have a few times for sure. I remember the era that you were talking about, Jeff, where I was starting to be like, maybe this is one too many times. But I kind of think that it's all about the execution. Like I think that when they do get it right, you can be kind of charmed again.
And I think they mixed it up this year with a different animal pairing than usual. And I it's you kind of mix up. I've always been thinking like they've always used and I guess there's an argument to be made for this, but they're always I think using basically a yellow a golden retriever in most of the puppy spots. And it's like, well, you could see other dogs too.
Is it just a different dog this year? I haven't seen it.
There's no dog. Oh my God, you haven't seen it.
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to spoil it.
No dog
you can
at all.
Watch the podcast.
Okay, I'll watch it.
But yeah,
this is.
Give us one guess of what you think it is.
A cat, probably. I don't know. No,
Close.
People don't like cats as much. Regardless, this is my plug to anyone who does advertising. If you want to switch up the animals, I've got, I would care more if there were a ferret involved. And they're cute.
A ferret?
Are you not aware of David Salazar's House of Ferrets?
I have two ferrets.
No,
oh my God!
I'm really disappointed they're not on camera with you right now.
David, why have
I've been on Zoom calls. I've been on Zoom calls with David when the
me?
ferrets have been present.
Often my fiance will just walk into the frame with a ferret in hand.
Anywho, my tearjerker pick. So I had Farmer's Dog. This is my sort of secondary pick, and mostly it's not the biggest. It's not so much a huge tearjerker, but it's super emotional in a way that is very unexpected. And yeah, the level of difficulty here is, I think, incredibly high. And I learned in the subsequent years that it basically fundamentally changed the entire company's view of marketing and advertising. So we're going to go back to 2010, and this is Google's Parisian Love, which is basically an entire ad and love story told through the search bar of Google. It worked incredibly well for the brand because before that, Google was very much well, never been in the Super Bowl before. Certainly didn't really, I'm not going to claim this was their first like big national commercial, but it might have been. I have to look that up. But it definitely, I was talking to, CMO Lorraine Tuhill like last year, and she still goes back to like Reason Love turned a switch on to the brand in terms of our products are amazing. We sell like they kind of the kind of tech ethos of like the product sells itself kind of stuff, but the idea and the importance of brand affinity and what your brand stands for and kind of how the role that these products can play in people's lives was like hugely influential. And I've heard it referenced many times before in terms of how that level of difficulty of using the product to convey an emotional either story or connection to people's lives. And I mean, that is incredibly hard with a puppy or whatever we're talking, like the other things we talk about that like, or that sort of make us cry or make us kind of emotionally connect to a piece of advertising. This, I mean, I don't know, that level of difficulty is
Just
extremely
text, high. Yeah, that's impressive. My note actually is that it could have been more tear jerky if how to assemble crib next. Craigslist.org for sale, baby shoes never worn.
Hemingway. Woo!
Sorry.
Saddest short story ever told.
Okay, all right, Grace, we're moving into what? Wild card? Is it
wild card?
Time?
This is anything goes, any category, any product. I will be shocked if any of us have each other's pick because the selection area is so wide and so vast. Grace, what do you got?
I feel like the pressure is so on for this one. And because of that, I'm just going to go with the one that had the most impact on my life, which is Old Spice, the man your man could smell like.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me.
I feel like this era of Old Spice advertising was so iconic at the time. I don't know. I mean, I know why. It was well executed and novel during that era and just very silly in a way that resonated with people. But this was so quotable for the like middle school aged cohort. It was everywhere. I just remember it being like ubiquitous at the time.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, it really was sort of like the beginning of that era for Old Spice, and it sold it.
Amazing pick, Grace. Okay, David, you're up.
I had a few, but I rediscovered this one in the sort of the search for these, and I think it's a great example of like taking a zeitgeisty moment or like, one of the last like monoculture moments, honestly, and turning it into a really good like riff on it. And this is the 2003 FedEx commercial, which is a riff on Castaway, right? And Castaway, Tom Hanks's, spoilers for Castaway, everybody. Tom Hanks's character, he's a FedEx guy. The plane crashes. He ends up on an island, and then he sort of like survives. There's volleyball, but a thing that keeps him going is this undelivered FedEx package.
With the butterfly
that
on
I
it.
think he does deliver at the end of the movie. Yeah, and he delivers it at the end of the movie, blah, blah, blah. This commercial takes the Castaway thing, and it's another guy who's stuck on an island. He arrives at this woman's doorstep. He's like,
Hi.
Hi.
I was marooned on an island for 5 years with this package, and I swore that I would deliver it to you because I work for FedEx.
That's very admirable. Thank you.
Hey, but by the way, what's in the package?
Nothing really. Just a satellite phone, GPS locator, fishing rod, water purifier, and some seeds. Just silly stuff.
and it's a really good like turn on that, and it's a lot of fun, and it makes you be like, oh yeah, FedEx, you're good.
That's amazing. My wildcard pick is, okay, so first of all, very creative, very funny. And what I love about it most is it plays with the format of the Super Bowl ad itself. And it is from 2018, and it's Tide, starring David Harbour, basically called It's a Tide Ad. And he's basically, it looks like he's in a car ad, but it's actually a Tide ad. And he's explaining why is it a funny beer ad? Nope, Tide ad.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad. Right?
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Or whatever ad this is.
Whatever.
But it's a Tide ad.
What? It's a Tide ad. What makes it a Tide ad? There are no stains.
They ran these throughout the game. There's one sort of hero spot, but they ran these throughout the game where you're like, wait, is this? And it made you think like, oh, is this going to be another Tide ad, or is it just is this a real ad for somebody else? And I just thought it was the way he pulled it off is hilarious. It's really good, and actually, probably tops a decade earlier. Tide had probably one of the best Super Bowl ads of 2008 with the talking stain spot, which I also highly recommend anyone to watch because it is fantastic.
Good choice. I think, yeah. Better days for David Harbour probably when that ad came out.
I was going to say.
Oh, what's going on with David Harbour now?
You're not a big Lily Allen fan, Jeff?
Oh, right. Yeah. I guess. I mean, no, I'm not. But yeah, bad news cycle for a while now. That sucks. Sucks for him. But back then, you're right. Brighter days. Season 1, maybe season 2.
Yeah, totally.
So, okay, we each have a lineup of 5 spots. Let's see, Grace, you've got the 97. Budweiser Frogs. You've got the Honda CRV, Matthew's Day Off on 2012. You've got Farmer's Dog from 2023 for your tearjerker. And your wild card is The Man Your Man Could Smell Like. That's a killer lineup. That is a really good one.
Yeah, good picks, Grace.
To wrap up for David, David's got for beer 2019 Bud Light Night, HBO, which he stole from me.
R.I.P.
Automotive, it's Christopher Walken, 2024, BMW. Snacks, it's Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, and the Lay's spot for the 2022 Super Bowl. Tearjerker, Budweiser, 2013, Brotherhood, featuring Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. And your wild card is FedEx. 2003 Castaway spoof, I guess we'd call it.
Yeah. Parody,
yeah. And parody, yes. And mine, let's see. I forget mine already. I forget.
Yours were...
okay. Tearjerker, Parisian Love.
I can't do it as distinctly as you did.
Tearjerker, Parisian Love.
Yes.
I had to really call an audible on beer. I had one pick. I was convinced no one was going to pick it. So I think I went with What's Up from 2000. That's Budweiser. Automotive, Hyundai Assurance from 2009. Not a sexy pick, but I think important. And for snacks, I had Finger Cleaner from Doritos Crash the Super Bowl, which I'm still mad about that it did not win that contest.
Yeah, talk about a misfire. No one remembers the one they actually chose. Everyone remembers the Finger Cleaner.
And I feel like no one's going to remember anything I'm saying because they're paying attention to Grace's cat playing in the background there.
I know.
Grace has got her own Super Bowl Budweiser ad going on in the background.
She's really so sorry.
Guys, okay, so I want to, we're going to try to get these lineups online, social, where people can sort of vote and see who's got the strongest collection of 5 all-timers here. Meantime, David, thanks for joining. Thanks for going over your picks here. It was great to chat with you.
Thanks for having me. Call me anytime. I'll show up. I'll be on the podcast.
Amazing.
Thanks, David.